Welcome back, guys. Before we start, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, can you please tell me from where you're watching? Thanks. Okay, so this happened last fall, October 2022 to be exact. I was 19, had just dropped out of my second year of college, and honestly I was feeling kind of lost. Life had been a mess. School wasn't working out. My friends were drifting, and I just needed to get away from everything for a bit. Clear my head, you know? My cousin Jessie told me about this little rental cabin she stayed at once, tucked away near a forgotten mountain town called Darrington Hollow. Ever heard of it? Yeah, me neither. It's not even on most maps anymore. It was supposed to be peaceful. No traffic, no neighbors, no Wi-Fi. Just trees, birds, and quiet. Sounded perfect, so I booked it. 3 nights, solo trip. Just me, my notebook, a few snacks, and an old Bluetooth speaker I'd had since high school. I figured I'd write, maybe hike a bit, and try to feel normal again. The drive took forever, over 4 hours from my place, and most of the way was back roads and crumbling pavement. I lost signal about 20 minutes before I got there, but I'd already downloaded the directions. The cabin sat at the edge of some old forest. You couldn't even see it from the road. Just a crooked little path leading through the trees. I parked, grabbed my backpack, and hiked in. And there it was. The place looked, well, cozy, but in that hasn't been lived in for a while kind of way. 1 small bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a single bathroom, and a living area with a worn-out couch and dusty windows. There was a note taped to the door from the owner. A guy named Paul with the key and a smiley face drawn next to some rules. Pretty standard stuff. No smoking, don't leave food out, watch out for raccoons. There wasn't any cell service, just like Jessie said. I didn't mind. That was kind of the point. I unpacked, made some instant noodles, then sat on the porch with my notebook and listened to music through my speaker. Just chill vibes. The kind of quiet that almost feels heavy, like the air doesn't move much out there. Night came fast. By 7:30 it was pitch black outside. I mean really black. No streetlights, no moon that night, not even the soft glow from nearby homes. Just pure thick darkness pressing up against the windows. But inside it felt okay. I read a few chapters of an old horror novel I'd brought and played some ambient music while I drifted off. The next morning, I woke up early. It was cold. Way colder than I expected for October. I threw on 2 hoodies and made some oatmeal. Then I went for a walk. There was a little trail behind the cabin, mostly covered in leaves and overgrown in parts. I didn't go far, maybe 20 minutes in and back. That afternoon I did some cleaning. Just basic stuff. Wiped the counters, swept the porch, played some music from my phone while I worked. The speaker was sitting on the kitchen table, playing soft instrumental tracks like usual. Then I turned it off, made dinner, and chilled on the couch with my notebook. That's when things started getting weird. I was half asleep, just sort of staring out the window, when I heard this sound coming from the speaker, but I hadn't turned it on. It started with this weird crackling like static. I figured maybe it was picking up interference or something, though I wasn't connected to Wi-Fi or anything. Then came the voice. A man's voice, low, rough, like someone whispering through an old radio, and he was counting. 10, 9, 8, I froze. My phone was across the room. No apps were open. Nothing was playing. But the speaker, which was definitely off, kept going. 7, 6, 5. I yanked the power button and held it until the little light went off. The voice stopped. Just like that. I sat there heart pounding for like 10 straight minutes trying to make sense of what just happened. Maybe the speaker glitched. Maybe someone nearby had a signal that somehow got picked up, except there wasn't anyone nearby, not for miles. I barely slept that night. Every little sound made me flinch. Creaking wood, branches tapping the window, even the wind felt louder than usual. Still, nothing else happened, so by morning I managed to convince myself it was just a fluke. Day 2, I didn't even touch the speaker. I put my phone on airplane mode and left it on the nightstand. I spent most of the day sitting outside sketching, writing in my notebook, trying to enjoy the quiet again. And for a while I did. It felt normal. That night I did the dishes by hand. The cabin had no dishwasher, just an old sink and a sponge that probably should have been thrown out a year ago. I was playing an old voice memo I'd recorded for a project idea, something boring about app design. It was quiet, low volume, just background noise while I scrubbed plates. No problems. Nothing creepy. The speaker worked fine. I turned it off, unplugged it, and put it back on the kitchen table. Then I went to bed. Around midnight I woke up. Not from a dream, just woke up, and I knew something was off. At first it was just a sound. Low, soft, barely there. Like breathing but mechanical. Then I noticed the light, a tiny blue glow from the other room. The speaker was on, and it was playing. I got up slowly and walked toward the living area. The speaker sat exactly where I left it, on the table facing the hallway. The light was blinking now, and that voice let down that same voice and was back. But this time it wasn't counting. It was saying my name, over and over. Eli, 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 whispery, dragged out, like it was enjoying the sound of it. I picked up my phone, still on airplane mode. No apps open, no recordings. I checked the speaker's memory, its history, nothing. No recent audio files. I turned it off, took the batteries out completely, and shoved it under a towel. I wanted to throw it outside, but I don't know. I didn't want to go near the door. I didn't sleep after that. I just sat there staring at the shape under the towel, waiting for the light to come back on. It never did. The next morning, I packed everything. I was supposed to stay one more night, but screw that. I triple-checked every window and door, made sure I had all my stuff, then wrapped the speaker in a t-shirt, stuffed it in a bag, and got the hell out. I didn't even look back at the cabin. About an hour down the road, I stopped at a diner. There was a dumpster out back, and without even thinking, I dropped the speaker in. I didn't care if it still worked or not. I didn't want it anymore. Since then, nothing weird has happened. I keep Bluetooth off all the time now. I don't use voice memos. I even got a new phone. But every so often, when I'm in a store or scrolling online, I'll see a speaker that looks just like it. Same shape. Same buttons, same little blinking blue light, and it makes me sick to my stomach. I still don't know what happened that weekend. I never told Jesse. I never messaged the owner. I mean, what would I even say? Hey, your cabin might be haunted by a ghost that likes Bluetooth? It sounds stupid when I say it out loud. But I know what I heard. I know what I felt, and I'm never going back to Darrington Hollow, not ever. Okay, so this happened a few years ago. Back in 2019, I was 25 at the time, burned out from everything. Work, social stuff, even my own apartment started to feel like a trap. I needed a break in the worst way. Not just a weekend off. I needed to disappear for a bit. That's when my cousin Jamie told me about this cabin up in a place called Hollow Creek, Pennsylvania. Said her friend's family owned it but hadn't used it in years. It wasn't listed on any rental sites. Just a quiet little place out in the woods, totally off-grid. No Wi-Fi, no cell signal. You couldn't even find it on Google Maps. Honestly, that sounded perfect. I emailed the owner, some older guy named Carl, who gave me directions that felt more like a treasure map than actual navigation. Turn right at the rusted gas station. Take the dirt road with the broken gate. Drive past the mailbox with the deer skull on top. That sort of thing. Weird, but kind of fun. The drive was long and quiet, and the farther I got, the more the world seemed to fall away. Towns disappeared. Gas stations turned into broken pumps. The road turned to gravel, then mud. I lost phone signal about 40 minutes before I arrived. The last stretch of the road was so narrow, the trees scratched both sides of my car. But then I saw it. The cabin. Nestled right between two huge pine trees surrounded by thick woods on all sides. It was smaller than I expected, but cute. Rustic. A little weathered, but not run down. One porch light still worked somehow. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and yeah, it was quiet. Not just no noise quiet, but heavy quiet, like the woods had sucked all the sound out of the air. I unpacked, made a quick sandwich, and sat on the porch for a while just listening to the stillness. No cars, no planes overhead, no people, just trees. That night I made a fire in the little wood stove and read until I fell asleep. I didn't feel scared or anything, just really, really alone. The next morning, after some toast and instant coffee, I decided to take a walk behind the cabin. There wasn't a real trail, but the trees weren't too dense, so I figured I'd just wander a bit, get my steps in. I followed what looked like a deer path for maybe 20 minutes, just weaving through the woods, ducking under branches, stepping over logs. That's when I saw it. Another cabin. It was farther out, maybe half hidden behind a line of dead trees. At first I thought it was just a storage shed or something, but as I got closer I realized it was almost identical to mine. Same shape, same porch, same little chimney poking out of the roof. Only this one looked wrong. The wood was blackened in places, like it had been scorched. The windows were covered in grime. The front door was hanging off one hinge, swaying just slightly even though there was no wind. I climbed the porch steps, just curious, you know. I didn't go inside. Just stood there looking in through one of the windows. Couldn't see much. Just shadows, dusty furniture, maybe a chair tipped over on its side. Then I heard something. Not loud, just a faint creaking sound from inside. Like floorboards shifting under weight. I backed off the porch fast. Didn't run, but I walked back to my cabin a lot quicker than I came. I told myself it was just an old building. Maybe someone used to live there, or maybe it was part of the same property left to rot. But the weird part? I hadn't seen it on the map Carl gave me, and Jamie never mentioned it. In fact, no one did. I stayed inside the rest of the day, made soup, read, watched the fire crackle, but something about that second cabin stayed in my head like a splinter. That night I went to bed around 10. The woods outside were dead silent. No wind, no bugs, nothing. Then, sometime after midnight, I woke up. Not sure why. No noise, no dream. Just wide awake. I turned over trying to get comfy again, and that's when I heard it. A knock, not on the front door. On the back. 3 slow knocks. Solid, steady, like someone knocking with the side of their fist. I froze. Nobody knew I was here except Jamie and Carl. And even then, they wouldn't come out in the middle of the night. There were no neighbors, no hikers, nobody. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Just stared at the ceiling like it might protect me. Then it happened again. 3 more knocks. I wanted to believe it was an animal, a branch, anything, but it wasn't. It was a pattern, deliberate. I pulled the blanket over my head like I was 5 years old again, and I just waited. Eventually, I must have fallen back asleep. In the morning, I went to the back door. I didn't open it, just looked through the little window. Nothing there, but right in the dirt outside were 3 prints. Not footprints exactly, more like deep rounded impressions, like someone or something had been standing there barefoot. And not recently. The dirt was freshly pressed like it had just happened. I packed my stuff right then and there, threw everything in the car and got out. I didn't even leave a note. Back home I tried to forget about it. Told myself it was just nerves, imagination, isolation messing with my head. But a week later, I went online. Started searching around for anything about Hollow Creek, the area, the cabin, the woods. And that's when I found a message board. Old posts, like early 2000s old. People talking about the mirror cabins. Warnings not to go past a certain point in the woods. A guy who said he found a cabin that looked like his, right down to the same broken porch railing. But when he opened the door, the inside was pitch black. No furniture, just walls covered in handprints. Someone else mentioned hearing knocks at night. Always 3. Always at the back door. The post stopped around 2007. I never looked into it more than that. Never asked Jamie. Never messaged Carl again. Sometimes I still dream about the knock. Not the sound, just the feeling of it. The knowing, like whatever it was, still remembers me, and maybe it's waiting, somewhere in the woods, behind a door knocking. Let me tell you something weird that happened to me. I haven't shared this with many people, mostly because it sounds made up. But I swear every word is true. This happened in October 2022, right when the air was starting to turn cold and the leaves were just beginning to fall. At the time, I was 18 and still pretty new to college. My cousin Riley and I had grown up together, super close like siblings, and we ended up at the same school. Riley had a friend named Max who was chill and easy to be around. The three of us decided to do something fun before midterms hit. Riley found this little cabin rental in West Virginia, way out in the hills near a place called Pine Hollow. The photos looked decent, woodsy, quiet, nothing fancy. It was supposed to be just a chill weekend. We'd leave Friday morning, hang out, maybe go for a short hike, then head back Sunday afternoon. The drive out there was long. Once we passed the last gas station, there weren't any more stores or houses. Just trees. Miles and miles of trees, thick and dark, crowding up against the road like they were leaning in to listen. The last half hour was the weirdest part. No cell signal, no cars, and the GPS just kind of stopped. Riley had printed out directions, thank God, because otherwise we would have been totally lost. When we finally saw the cabin, it looked just like the listing. Small, kind of old-looking, with a saggy front porch and peeling paint, but nothing creepy. Just a regular, worn-down little place in the woods. We unpacked, made some sandwiches, and played a board game Riley brought. It started getting dark early, and by 9 p.m. it felt like midnight outside. Super quiet. No wind, no animals, no bugs. Just silence. The kind that makes your ears ring a little. We went to bed around 11. Max took the couch, and Riley and I each had a tiny room with narrow beds. I couldn't sleep. The silence was just too heavy. Around 12:30, I decided to step outside, just for some air, nothing big. I threw on my hoodie and quietly slipped out the back door. Behind the cabin was a little trail. It wasn't marked or anything, but it looked like people had walked it before. Just a dirt path going into the trees. The moon was out, full and bright, so I didn't bother with a flashlight. I told myself I'd walk for 5 minutes, maybe 10, then come back. It was peaceful, honestly. A little spooky, yeah, but the kind of spooky that makes you feel alive. The cold air smelled like wet leaves and pine needles. I didn't see any animals or hear anything, not even owls, but I figured that was normal for this time of year. I turned around after what felt like maybe 7 or 8 minutes. That's when I noticed the cabin's porch light looked different. It was on, but not as bright, sort of yellowish and flickering like an old candle. I went inside and immediately froze. The kitchen was spotless, totally clean, which was weird because we'd made a mess earlier. Sandwich crumbs, mugs, bags of chips all over the counter. But now nothing. Not a single dish in the sink. The trash was gone. Even the fridge magnets were arranged differently. Riley and Max were sitting on the couch like they hadn't moved. But here's the thing. They looked up at me like I'd just come out of my room, not from outside. "Hey," Riley said. "You hungry?" We were just about to make dinner. My mouth went dry. We already ate," I said. Max laughed. "No, we didn't. You okay?" They stood up and started making the same sandwiches we'd had earlier. Same bread, same peanut butter, same dumb jokes about the jelly sticking to the knife. I just watched them, frozen. They even put on the same playlist from before, like the evening had hit rewind and started again. I didn't know what to do, so I just went along with it. I ate the sandwich. I laughed at the same jokes. We played the same board game and had the exact same conversation about Riley's weird professor. It was like living inside a loop. That night I went to bed early. I couldn't sleep, obviously. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. Maybe I had just taken a nap earlier and dreamed the whole evening. The next morning I woke up early before the others. The sky was still a pale gray, not fully light yet. I went back to the same trail, walked a little ways in. Everything looked the same. But this time I noticed something I hadn't before. Half buried in the dirt near the side of the trail was an old rusty fork. Not mine, not ours, just there, no campsite, no trash nearby, just a fork. I stared at it for a while, then walked back. At breakfast, I asked them casually, "Hey, do you guys remember me going outside last night?" Max shook his head. "Nah, man. I don't think you did. You went to bed early." Riley looked unsure. "Wait. You did, didn't you?"
Or maybe I dreamed that, I didn't push it.
They clearly had no clue. And maybe that was better. The rest of the weekend was normal, almost too normal. We hiked for a bit on Saturday, made pasta for lunch, played card games, and packed up Sunday morning. But I couldn't stop watching the trees. Sometimes I thought I saw shapes in the woods just past the edge of my vision. Not animals, not people, just something watching. The night before we left, as we sat on the porch, I thought I heard whispering, faint just under the sound of the wind, like someone calling my name from very far away. I asked if anyone else heard it. They both said no. We got back to school and life picked up again. Classes, homework, midterms. I didn't talk about it. Neither did Riley or Max. Weeks passed. I figured maybe I'd imagined the whole thing, until one night I was going through my backpack looking for a notebook, and I found a leaf tucked inside. Not just any leaf. A large crisp red one with a single word scratched into it. I swear I'm not making this up. It said, "Stay." No one believed me, of course. I threw the leaf away, told myself it was a prank. But the weird feeling hasn't left me. Sometimes at night I'll be walking back from class and feel like someone's behind me, or I'll catch a glimpse of that same flickering yellow light in the corner of my eye. I haven't been back to Pine Hollow since. I don't think I ever will. Something happened in those woods. Something real, and I think it's still waiting for me.